Hello, welcome to the Brother Slim and another surprise enormity update. A very interesting one today, I would say. Definitely have some thoughts and would love to hear other people's thoughts too, but let's jump right into update number 20. Pledge Manager launch date, details, beta testing, and some big news. Spacers, the wait is almost over. We have a launch date for the Enormity Pledge Manager. This is a big milestone, one might say, for us. One might say enormous indeed. And we're here to share the details on how it will work, payment options, and even an opportunity to access it early. With that said, let's get into it. So, we're kicking things off with a big reveal. Big news, our own Pledge Manager. We're beyond excited to announce that Enormity's Pledge Manager will be hosted on our very own platform for managing pledge and soon online store orders. Ooh, I missed that when I read that earlier actually, for managing online store orders. That's really cool. Speculating, but it was anything like what Kingdom Death was trying to do with their kind of order feature of being able to possibly lump in online orders, store orders to arrive with pledges. That would be pretty sweet. That would be very cool. Okay, speculation aside, let's keep going here. After hearing from you last year, we've taken that feedback to heart and spent months developing the platform to ensure that everything from pledge selection to shipping details is handled seamlessly, with a system that's built specifically to meet the needs of our projects and our backers. This is a huge step for us as it gives us full control over the entire pledge management process, allowing us to offer a smoother and more intuitive experience. Since we're in charge of the platform, we can make adjustments and improvements on the fly without waiting on third-party services. This move allows us to provide better support and a more streamlined process, and we think we're going to love it. Very, very interesting. So, a lot of thoughts here as well, and I try to set bias aside because I do work for GameFound. Very interesting. So I know that for the previous campaign they tried to do, or previous Aeon Trespass campaign, they tried to do this as well before ultimately shelving the idea. So I'm assuming this time, from all of that laying the groundwork, and I'm assuming it was really close to becoming a thing, they had a lot of stuff in place. It's interesting because I know that they're really keen on post-campaign funding, and this, I assume, is going to either result in less funding or more effort on their own fronts to get it, or who knows, maybe they're factoring in how many new backers versus how many existing backers upgrade and change their pledges. Maybe that's a big thing rather than organic traffic from other platforms. Ever since, so I work for GameFound, but before I ever used GameFound, I remember thinking, oh, what is this upstart? I don't want to go and use something else. So now I really enjoy, as a backer, using GameFound for a lot of different reasons. And so I'm trying not to immediately jump on that, oh, something new, I don't want to try it kind of idea. We'll dig into some of the comments actually after, instead of just kind of spacing out thinking about things, because there's some good comments which are interesting to read. And I asked a question which Mihal, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, answered to, which is nice. But let's keep going here. So they're pretty stoked on it. That's always good to hear. Generally, when ITU is stoked on things, backers are too. So even if we'll see how it's received out of the comments. But price, tariffs, grace period. I know you've been waiting to hear from us on the pricing situation since practically the end of the crowdfunding campaign. Our Kickstarter campaign prices are always heavily discounted. So usually prices in the following PM rise appropriately, preceded by a 2-week grace period where we keep them at the previous level. Of course, this is no ordinary year, and keeping last year's prices is a tall order, which we're meeting. Going independent with the PM gives us that slight additional margin, and we're more than happy to pass the savings to you. Thus, besides a typical yearly inflation adjustment, the PM prices will remain as they were during the campaign, but only for the first 2 weeks. On that note, we're also getting questions about the growing tariffs imposed by the US government on many countries, including the EU, where we're based, and China, where we do our manufacturing, and their potential impact on our prices for this and other projects. The good news is that at the moment, we are not adjusting the prices in relation to the tariffs at the moment. The bad news is that this situation is extremely fluid. The erratic way in which the tariffs are imposed means that we cannot sufficiently plan ahead, so we cannot guarantee things will remain unchanged months from now. As always, we'll work diligently and to minimize any effects if they appear. We've successfully navigated the pandemic, the container crisis, and the Red Sea lanes disturbance. We are more than capable of tackling this challenge. Yep, full faith trust on that, for sure. Yeah, no qualms there whatsoever. Some art, I think we might have seen that before, but it's still cool. So the PM opens on March 27th, next week. For the big date, there we go. That's when the Enormity Pledge Manager officially goes live. However, to ensure a smooth rollout and avoid overloading the system, invitations will be sent out in waves with batches of several hundred backers at a time. If you don't receive your email immediately after launch, don't panic. It's on the way. Important, just like any other crowdfunding campaign, if you've already backed Enormity on Kickstarter, create the account with the link received in the email from us. This is the only way to ensure your pledge is correctly linked to your account. We'll remind you again closer to launch so you'll know exactly what to expect. Split payments. One of the most requested features has been split payments, and we're happy to confirm that this option will be available at launch. However, due to Stripe and EU banking systems constraints, at launch, the split payments will only be available through Klarna. This is a European split payment options provider, and will initially support Euro and Polish Zloty, if I know how to pronounce it correctly. These will be available if one of these currencies is the official currency of your country. I think that phrasing is very important. We know a split payment is a highly anticipated feature, so don't worry. We're already working on expanding support for more currencies, chiefly the American dollar and payment options. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to jump in and talk about this just a little bit really quick. So stuff like this just very basic general pledge management kind of stuff. I am really curious how much support or how overloaded the support team is going to be with all this, because Mihal's done a fantastic job of building out the support team. But I worry because the team has been severely overloaded in the past with many months between response. They always sorted anything out that I've ever heard of, but it took a long time. So hopefully this doesn't set back the support team too much. And then split payments. So this gets touched on in the comments a little bit as well. So we have as a Canadian backer, we have a 2-week period in which split payments specifically for the original Kickstarter prices are available, which are the prices that I would like to utilize. However, by the look of things, at this moment, split payments won't be available to myself. They seem, just going from the comments, to be hinting at least the USD dollar getting into play, which is obviously the huge proponent of backers for most games, so that makes sense. So it ends up being a bit of a pickle of, do I, as a backer, fork out a chunk of money for a little bit of savings in the long run, or wait and hopefully get the stretch pay equivalent in the future? And hope being the equivalent, because it's not a guarantee. There's not that many Canadian backers, and I'm sure there's other currencies which with much less too. And I'm also tight on a budget right now too, so it's interesting. Very interesting. One thought that crosses my mind, and this is actually what I commented, is if I'm not able to use the stretch pay equivalent, I might just downgrade to standees and then get an expansion or two on top of that. I've actually been kind of toying with that thought anyways, because I've got so many miniatures, and while I love painting the ITU ones, I'm probably going to be playing this game solo, and I don't know if I need them for that, and I love the idea of using them for sci-fi tabletop role-playing games. I've yet to play a sci-fi tabletop role-playing game. So while I love the idea of having these minis for the game itself and for other games, it doesn't feel necessary. So yeah, that's kind of where my head is at right now. Okay, let's move on for now. Actually, your feedback matters. We'd love to hear from you once the platform is up and running. For the first time, we have more agency about solutions and features, and just like with our games, we'd like to create an environment not only for you, but with you. And the first step is closed beta testing for our Discord community. This makes sense. Basically just limited public testing. Just gonna skip past here, but if you are part of the Discord community, you can join in, which is cool. I am too busy doing house renovations and planning for a work trip coming up, so I'm not going to do it, although it would be very cool. Get some more art there. Very nice. What's in a name? One last thing remains, the platform's name. We could call it ITU Pledge Manager, seeing as it's going to serve our exclusive needs as a PM and a store, but that doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. And where is the fun and fancy in that? We actually had several brainstorming sessions about it, with ideas ranging from hard to pronounce Game Agora, though it harkened to our ATO roots, not gonna lie, I think that's my favorite, to really out there, like Pledgemonium. How many Pledge Manager puns can you come up with? We've settled on something lighter and more poetic, something that inspires the imagination, just like our games, but is also mundane enough to, at a glance, tell you exactly what it does. Expediently ships, or in a lot of cases flies, our games to you. Gameflight has a nice ring to it. Yeah, that sounds good. Also, it does sound quite a bit like GameFound, but ITU does have a theme with pretty much every end of their campaign, and the whole idea of their games is to reach for I think what was it in the first one is like reach for the sun or the stars or something like that, and then reach for outer space in the last one or something. So trying to reach for stuff, and flight is a big part of that. So it is indeed a good name. GF number 2, I suppose. Final countdown begins with just a week and a half left until the March 27th reveal. We're making final preparations to ensure the best possible experience when the pledge timer goes live. We can't wait to see you there, so save the date and keep an eye out for updates. Stay sharp, spacers. And a few photos from the eNormity playtests, which is fun. Always fun seeing The Office. I feel like The Office is like the perfect setup for eNormity playlists with the white and black. I guess ATO would fit that bill too. Got a bit of a sun coming in. I got a lovely window now, so it's a bit of a glare, so I can't really see anything. I think that might be I don't know if that's actually for this game or not, but just miniatures being used. Looks more nightly there. Map stuff, very cool. Very cool indeed. And then a lovely, lovely chunky puppy thing. Great. Yeah, so let's look at some of the comments. Yeah, that was a big not stumbling block. It wasn't their fault. They literally had the wool pulled over their eyes. But the last couple hundreds, I think it was the last couple hundred or so, UK backers got absolutely sewered as far as fulfillment. Not ITU's fault at all, but rightfully so. People were upset. And that might be a piece of them wanting to be able to just have full control of everything for the pledge manager as well. Okay, so John here. I know that single opinion serves nothing, but I'm personally not happy with this choice and just want to voice it. Building a PM is a distraction from your core business, one that provides no direct game benefit. It makes me anxious when I'm owed 2 waves of KF, 2 waves of Sins of Heracles, and 2 waves of eNormity. I would assume someone made the math that paying X% on millions to a PM tool is more expensive than building it. I myself recall 3 companies that did this: CMON, Serious Pulp, and Mythic. I just find it to be a very strange flex that sours my opinion of how money is managed. Nevertheless, I'm positive that things will change. Will change until the end of the year, given you've delivered 2 of the 6 waves, right? Okay, on the contrary, all opinions are valid. This wasn't here when I was reading this before, and we appreciate our backers voicing them. And it's no flex, a tool was needed to handle orders from split PMs, so its development was needed to make handling pledges smoother. With third-party PM costs growing higher by the year, as well as taking a split on shipping, it isn't negligible. Oh yes, starting with KF. There's a great update coming for it in 2 days, and I'll be flying to our factory next month to make sure it arrives on time. Next up, Sins of Heracles and eNormities. Yeah, I do see John's point for sure. A little bit less since I missed the note about their online store. I think an offering that improves their online store would be a benefit too, especially since there's some complaints about shipping times and such. So if that's all articulated well, that sounds good. It is interesting on the piece about like development, time and money, doing the pledge manager stuff instead of working just on games and fulfilling said games. ITU's got a good track record, a long track record, I'll say that, but what they put out is absolutely phenomenal. The Mythic touch is always interesting. Yeah, I think it's just going to be a wait and see. I'll be really curious to see how it goes, and hopefully as smooth as possible for all parties. Don't mind Klarna, so high interest rates, what's this? So Klarna tends to offer split payments with high interest rates, 21%. Will this be the case for your platform, or will we be charged interest-free split payments like on GameFound? We're currently working on a server-side solution similar to GameFound, so we can offer interest-free installments globally. That's good news. Will there be a different type of split payment for EU backers apart from Klarna? Yes, in time as we implement additional payment support. Okay, so another person not happy. It's another place where this is Jarvis, where you need to account and check your status. I was glad that GameFound became the go-to place. I think it's very short-sighted. Sure, you'll have margins which can be eaten by development and sustaining costs, while you will see significantly lower sales post-campaign. GameFound has plenty of users, which adds so much more visibility to a project, way more than KS and way more than your own platform. Hollow heavily agrees, also adds yet another place of holding our personal information. It would be interesting to compare the number of late backers with those on GameFound with the reduced visibility. ITU, which is likely Marcin. Thanks for the feedback. The platform was primarily developed to handle split orders from previous campaigns, like the discounted KFPM and the new one, so those development costs were already happening. That said, we will absolutely monitor backer activity and compare with our previous results. I'll say that with game fund fees rising year on year, you might see more campaigns going a different route in the future. That's a very interesting comment. Game fund fees have not risen year after year. I know for ITU might be a little bit different because they were using the original Pledge Manager for quite some time, which was free, which is now no longer available. So game fund fees did rise for ITU because that service offering changed. Pledge Manager equals Treasury. Drasner, ICPM, inverted crowdfunding Pledge Manager. Yep, I like that very much. Okay, where's mine? So what did I say? Never enough puns. Very interesting on the PM front. If backers outside of the European and Polish currency want to take advantage of the grace period prices, we'll need to do so without installments. So working on installments more broadly available. Stay tuned to not miss that. And as to more content, I'm very much entertained. There's a lot of great content. Yeah, so one of the things that ITU did a lot during the actual crowdfunding campaign was a lot of very much kind of like lawyer-style legalese answers where like, we're working on things but can't give you a direct answer because we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So just by that read, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more currencies rolled out over the 2-week grace period. However, those kind of things I feel like take time. So unless they're already very far along behind the scenes, I would be surprised. So if we're lucky, they'll extend that grace periods if needed, or if we're very lucky, various installment methods will be available right away. Interesting. Yeah, a very interesting comment about the fees and game fund though, because I don't personally agree with that. Let's see. I think that's just the gist. So yeah, really interesting. It is just going to be a wait and see. In my mind, it'll be interesting using a new tool. The comments on visibility and traffic and such will absolutely be interesting. Comparing ITU to like Kingdom Death, like ITU is definitely a cult following. It's a smaller fan base than a lot of big crowdfunding companies, but a very strong fan base compared to Kingdom Death, which is also a cult following, but seems much bigger, and they do all those monthly sales, which often sell out of a lot of things. So a lot of Kingdom Death community people will follow the Kingdom Death site religiously because of those monthly sales, and I'm really curious how this will go for ITU. I hope really well, both as a backer and professionally. But yeah, really interesting update. So would love to hear discussion on what people think about it also, because I also kind of agree, and it feels like a nice hotspot between Kickstarter and GameFound and BackerKit to a degree too, depending on the project, and the more pieces of the pie of being spread out over more and more places is interesting. But yeah, much love. Thanks for tuning in to a bit of a rambly read on this update. But really excited for the Pledge Manager to go live and finalize the pledge one way or another. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.